indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good morning. Welcome to the November meeting of the Clinton County Council. We have just a kind of a brief agenda today. But as always, everything is important, and we'll begin with the approval of last month's meeting minutes. Jeff, if you have a chance.
Yes, look those over, and Janet and I are doing those fresh after the meeting, so it's all good
Yep.
there. So no corrections or additions, so I would make a motion we approve the minutes.
Second.
A motion by Jeff, a second by Joe to approve the October 8th meeting minutes. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Our regular monthly reports, community corrections, Brett Barton. Good morning.
We've got 80 clients on our program this morning, one on CTP, we have one juvenile, and also one on pretrial release. We're happy to announce that our new drug testing vendors next door are up and going, and I'm just pleasantly surprised by their professionalism from what we've been used to. Didn't know if it was going to be a good fit, but it's fantastic, so
Great.
very, very pleased with that. We're also continuing to do our due diligence with the old police station. I'm actually meeting with some roofers again today. They have some other options to go through, but Envoy should have a report about the next 30 days or so on
Okay, good.
what the viability of that is.
Okay, good. I'm glad we're doing that.
Any questions at all?
Good.
Questions for Brett?
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see Nancy. Nancy's back there hiding.
Yes.
Probation report.
We had a juvenile in detention in October. Actually, we had two, but I only had the bill for one of them. Both were juveniles with guns. The second juvenile actually shot the gun at someone.
Okay.
So, pretty serious, sadly.
So more to come in November?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
That brings us to the new business portion of the agenda, and the primary order of business is a report from Healthy Communities. Laura Archibald with our updated opioid settlement fund committee report. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
What you saying, Larry?
So I'm here to give you the fall recommendations from the opioid settlement committee. The committee members stayed the same during this time since the spring. 8 applications were received, with 7 applications being recommended for at least partial funding. One of the things that we did get accomplished is developing a notification letter for organizations that were either just partially funded or not funded at all. And then the city and county reporting was completed prior to the 9/6 deadline, and you all have a copy of that. Funding recommendations for this cycle for the city is $5,101.50. And all funding recommendations qualify either under restricted or unrestricted. And as we go through, you'll see which ones qualify under which thing, and we have it specified. The first one up is Inwell, and they have hired a new psychiatric nurse practitioner who also can prescribe medication-assisted treatment. Because she is dual in purpose, her DEA licensure is very expensive, and so they have some of the funds for that, but they are asking for some additional funds to meet the rest of that recommendation. They had put it in their budget for somebody who wasn't dually licensed. That's why it was an unexpected cost to them. So the total cost is $3,528, and they're asking for $2,878 since they serve people from the city and county. We've asked for that to be split between the two, so it'd be $1,439 from the city. And that could fall under restricted or unrestricted. I would recommend that anytime it could come under restricted, that you use that money first, because you can, obviously. The next request was Clinton County Community Corrections. As you know, there's been a lot of turnover and upheaval with the drug testing, and it's increased their rate by 60%, and thus in turn it increases the rate for their clients. And so they're wanting to save the corrections clients money with their drug screening. The total cost of the project's $2,800, and that's what they're requesting. And because they serve people from the city and county, we're asking that be split between the city and county, and the request would be $1,400. And I would recommend that that go under restricted, but it could go under either, and it's to address the needs of criminal justice involved persons. The next one on there is Clinton County EMS, but it's just being requested from the county. It is for a match funding for a Homeland Security grant to install a safe haven baby box. And there was a lot of discussion over this one, so I just want you guys to know that, okay? It was a lot of debate. But Stephen Deckard, very prepared, smart individual. And so the question was, how does this relate to opioid use disorder? Well, in Indiana, 93% of all infants that have been left at safe haven boxes test positive for substances. So that's how it relates to opioid use disorder. Here's the thing, is those babies that are left at those boxes are at higher risk for neonatal abstinence syndrome, okay? So they would die at a faster rate than babies who are not on substances. And so the fact that they're left somewhere that they can get immediate medical attention versus if they were left in a dumpster or an alley is very, very important. And that 93% of the infants left in those boxes test positive for substances is why this relates to opioid use. And so the next question was, do we need two? Right? We have one at the fire department. Do we need another one at EMS? And so we did research as the committee, and there are more than one in other cities. And so I think if this would have been asked for the whole thing, it might have been different. But Stephen had done his due diligence and had already covered a large part of this project. And so the total cost of the project is between $20,000 and $22,500. He is only asking for $10,000, and so we recommended that the county cover that cost from the county only. And we did recommend, though, however, it come from unrestricted, just because it's one of those things that could be gray area. So we did recommend that you put it under the unrestricted funds. We could see the link with the neonatal abstinence syndrome, but we just felt like it would be a safer bet to put it in unrestricted. The next request is from the Clinton County Sheriff's Department. They're requesting funding to send an officer for iOS training for mobile devices. And what that does is helps them be trained in mobile forensics. That would help improve outcomes in the criminal justice system and enhance safety in the community. The total cost is $3,500. The requested amount is $3,500. We're asking that total amount from the county. We are recommending unrestricted on that also. And the reason that we're asking from unrestricted is Indiana Next Level Recovery really wants this money spent for the people and not so much for enforcement. So we felt like it was a safer thing to put that in unrestricted versus restricted funds. Rossville Middle and High School, they're seeking match funds for Remedy Live Convocation. It's an interactive prevention program, and that's probably the category we've spent the least amount of money in. It is mental health and substance use prevention dual program. I was there last year when they did this program. It was amazing. So kids have their mobile devices, and they're screened and polled, and they cannot track it to their phone, but they can answer the questions in live time. And it gives the school real live time data about where kids are with mental health and substance use. I think it was very eye-opening for the school. Afterward, there are rooms with trained professional adults that kids can go to that want help. We really thought we would be there for a couple of hours. Man, I really thought we'd be there an hour, to be honest. We were there until after school ended that day because we had so many kids who came and wanted help. That to me spoke volumes about the power of this program. So they wanted to bring it back again this year. The whole cost of the program is $5,000. They were able to raise $4,000 of it on their own, so their funding request is $1,000. We recommend that from the county since it's a county school, and it could easily go into the restricted funds. And like I said, prevention's something we haven't spent a lot of money on, so. The next one is from the Clinton County Sheriff's Department. They're requesting match funding for undercover surveillance equipment to mitigate the delivery and sale of opioids in the community, for harm reduction to those with substance use disorder, and to improve sanctions to those delivering and selling opioids. The total cost of the project is $69,844.77, and they're requesting $8,729. And our recommendation that comes from the county, since it's the county entity, and that would, we recommend from unrestricted once again, since it's an enforcement issue. The next one is Clinton County Probation. They're seeking funding to offset the cost of drug screenings for probation clients to help reduce the financial burden of this barrier. It would be dependent on the client's compliance and financial status. Once again, it's very similar to what they're doing with corrections. It's to offset costs related to those drug screens. That can be a huge barrier for their clients in corrections and probation, especially with that big increase in screening costs. The total project cost and request is $4,525, and we've asked that that be divided between the city and county because their clients come from the city and the county, and that could easily come from the restricted funds as well. Any question on any of those requests?
Yes, Laura. So about the baby box, which I totally understand, and but when I think of that, I think of like the boxes for canned goods and library books and stuff. So this is not. Help me out just to figure what is that?
So a safe haven box is a box that gets put at a location where someone can take a baby and put the baby in the box. It immediately notifies the EMS that a baby's been put in there so that it can get immediate medical care. Versus someone leaving and abandoning baby in a location which it may not be found for hours or days or never, right?
Is that box inside inside
It's
a
built
building?
in
or
the
It's usually
just-
built into the wall.
It's usually built
It's in
into the
wall. They
building.
cut the wall,
Okay.
set the box in. It's like a night deposit box.
Okay, very good.
It really
Someone's
is.
notified. Yeah,
And what it
that's-
is that they, when you put a baby in there, it gives you so much time to literally get away so that people feel safe to leave a baby there. Then it notifies someone that the baby is there so that it can get immediate medical attention. And if you leave a baby at a safe haven box, it's not illegal to do so, and you're protected by laws that you are not protected by if you abandon a baby somewhere
Right,
else.
right. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Yes. And like I said, at first we were very like, does this fit? But, Stephen in his wonderful research, it really does. And when you look at that, the nurse in me was like, when he said 93% of all babies in Indiana, and that's Indiana,
Yes.
have tested positive for substance use. That's when you know that we need to get to those babies and we need to get to them quick because they go into withdrawal, which is very, very dangerous for a newborn. So,
Yeah, I watched the commissioners meeting YouTube, and so I listened to your presentation then. But yeah, I just wanted to know, is it just really just?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I didn't know either.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know. Okay,
I
thank
mean,
you.
it sounds terrible to say it's kind of like a safety deposit box,
Okay.
but it is, and it's a safe place for them to leave their child, newborn child. So,
Very good.
yes,
I
ma'am.
just had one question, and I'm guessing that each one of these requests have a path of being funded going forward?
Yeah, so sustainability is something that we look at, like the one project that we did not fund sustainability was one of the biggest reasons, and in the spring, we only partially funded something because of lack of sustainability. But we felt like like the Safe Haven box, once it's in place, it's in place. And like if they had a match, that was also something that we really look at. The Remedy Live, like we felt like they raised $4,000 of the $5,000 needed. So, they had worked hard and had a vested interest in that. So, and their PTO had raised money. I mean, they had worked hard for that. So sustainability is one of the pieces that we look at. And Nancy and Brett have worked hard at like getting a new drug screening process in place and working on getting the prices down and all of those things for their clients. But there is that immediate need while they're working on those things. So, and I'll tell you that we hear it from our end. I'm sure they hear it way more than we do, but we hear it on our side too. Like, I don't have the money for this because, drug screenings have went up and, those things. So, the fact that we have leaders who care that it's a barrier for their clients, that speaks volumes.
Thank you.
Huh?
I have something I'd like to share with my fellow councilmen. Mary and I were actually at the meeting when the requests were being reviewed by the Opioid Settlement Committee, and this committee is a great committee, and they do a great service for our community. They ask all the right questions. I love this report. It tells us what the money's going to be used for. It tells us how it fits into the criteria, and I love the suggestions of restricted or unrestricted. This committee works really, really hard. But I have a question about the Sheriff's Department's second request, the one for undercover surveillance equipment. The total project is a large project. It's almost $70,000, and they have an in-kind of 61. They're only asking for 8729, which it's that size of a project. That's not a big ask, and we want to mitigate the delivery and sale of opioids, which is something we really want to do. So I appreciate all that, but my questions are, at the meeting, Mrs. Kelly was asked what the undercover surveillance equipment actually was, and we were told that it was undercover, so she couldn't reveal that to us. And I'd really like to know what that is. For $70,000, it could be a vehicle, for all I know. And then I also would like to know the in-kind contribution. Is that coming from a grant or a commissary or the federal
She
inmate
said a
program?
grant that day.
A grant?
She said a grant.
Okay, and I missed that. So, I would just, I would personally just like to know what undercover surveillance equipment is being purchased for that amount of money. But that's just my opinion.
Not that it has to be disclosed in a public meeting.
No, it doesn't have to be disclosed in a public meeting, but, if you can't trust the county council, who can you trust?
And we can go back and ask for specifics, and then I can send it to you if that would.
But like I said, I do not want to diminish your work. You did what you needed to do because the amount of money that's being asked for to do what they're saying is going to be done is great. It's just, as a council member, I feel like I'd like to know what
specifics.
equip's being purchased.
Fiscal oversight.
Yes, that's fine.
What equipment's being purchased.
Okay, I can try to get that information and send it to all of you. Okay. Just so you know, this goes directly with the report. I don't know how many of you have seen the report, but it is what core abatement strategy does this fall under? What's your intended outcome or goal, and how much money did you spend on it? So, just so you know, that's exactly how the report goes.
So Laura, you mentioned earlier about when there's a choice between restricted or unrestricted, you think we should go restricted. So is that something that needs to be part of the motion if we approve that we're designated? You have several that say restricted or unrestricted, so do we need to make that designation
Yeah,
as to which one it is?
That's really on your end when you decide what fund it comes from. That's just our recommendation.
Okay.
Yes.
But to be clear, your recommendation is if there's a choice, put it use the restricted first.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Correct.
So I think I say that because when we make a motion, I think we want to be clear in that, on those items.
Okay.
So at this point, unless there's any other questions.
I have a couple of other
Okay,
things,
yeah,
just
go
so
ahead,
that
please.
you guys know, moving forward, I feel like we have a better process in place now. We can get these payments out a little faster. there was some delays as we're kind of learning the process in the spring. So I feel like now we know how it's going to go. We'll get these checks out to agencies quicker this time. And we'll still do the reporting process the same. When it's time for a report, I will ask all those agencies for their information, and I'll submit the reports and then send the copies of the reports to the right people at the county and the city. And then we will reconvene after the first of the year and start looking at spring applications and anything else that we need to look at.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
I would entertain a motion that we take Laura, the committee's recommendation in using restricted and unrestricted based on their recommendation and approve these.
So I guess to be clear, on the ones that the report suggests, or says it could be restricted or unrestricted, the council's desire is to use restricted money first, correct? Okay, so I just want to make sure that that motion would reflect that intent. Okay, so Mary has the motion that we accept the committee's report using prioritizing restricted monies first. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Joe. Any last questions for Laura while she's here? Okay, seeing and hearing none, all those raise your right hand if you're in favor. Motion carries 4, or opposed? Opposed. Motion carries 4-1. All right. Thank you, Laura, for all your work and your time today.
And I will get those numbers if they're
Thank you.
available to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our one other item of new business as we move on is a real quick cleanup item. We need to amend the salary ordinance to make official a change that we discussed and ratified earlier this year, and that's what's related. If you look, it's highlighted, but because it's in black and white, it's on page, would be the third page. Page 3. Under the county home, it's the nurse position at the county home. This is the position that we talked about earlier, where the threshold level had changed from the Fair Labor Standards Act about what level a salary needed to be at to keep its exempt status. And we ended up agreeing to change that salary that, my recollection was, it ended up being just a very few dollars.
Cecily said it was like $10.
$10, something very, very minor, but it kept that position at that exempt threshold. We authorized that change back in the summer, so this is what makes it official in the salary ordinance. So that's the only item at changing that salary related to that 32-hour nurse position at the county home. So to make that official, I would entertain a motion to approve that change.
I make a motion to approve.
A motion by Jeff and a second by Carol to approve that change. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, that catches us up on that item. And that brings us to old business and additional appropriations, which we don't have many of this month, which is always good to see. I want to go back. 3 of these are related to the spring opioid committee report that dealt with implementing an employee assistance program, which is a mental health assistance program for our first responders who, by the nature of their job, oftentimes come into contact or are placed in traumatic situations and may need mental health treatment options afterwards. And so we had voted to accept the recommendation of the committee back in the spring to provide one of those, an EAP program for our first responders. Laura referenced how we had to kind of work through the process the first time. One of the things where we had a little bit of confusion was getting this money appropriated and out to the right people at the right time. So we're just now getting to the point where we're making the official appropriation. So you're going to see this split between 3 different departments, 3 different appropriations, but it really all goes back to that one employee assistance program. So $10,000 from the Sheriff's Department for the mental health treatment program from their portion of the opioid settlement monies. It's the only one we have from County General. CEDIT fund, this is from last month's presentation and vote, or 2 months ago's presentation, last month's vote to help the town of Kirkland with their Monon Trail project, $100,000 from CEDIT, as we discussed. Here's EMS's $10,000 contribution to the EAP with their portion of the opioid settlement funds. Surveyor's office, we have a couple of drain maintenance checks we received from our neighboring counties, $1,716.06 from Tipton County for the Leslie Johnson drain, and $308.67 from Howard County for the Raymond Stump Drain. Here's from landfill tipping fees, $5,000. This is a supplement to our to Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy, the HR contractor. As you know, we've leaned on them pretty heavily for the last year with the salary survey and all, and we were a little shy in our appropriated amount, so we're augmenting that with an additional $5,000 to finish out that billing in the rest of the year. Do I have everything? No, and then lastly, Central Dispatch, $10,000 for their contribution using the opioid settlement monies for the mental health EAP program. So $30,000 for that program altogether. And that is your list, your slate of additional appropriations for November. Any questions on any of those? Okay.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jeff to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mary. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. We have a couple of transfers that also need approval. Prosecutor's Department, $3,000 from the prosecutor line item to victim assistant, to cover a salary shortfall. Veterans Affairs, $700 from seminars to overtime. Circuit Court, $600 from transcripts to supplies. Recorder's Office, $5,000 from the second deputy position, which has been vacant for much of the year, to overtime. And statewide 911, $2,000 from VHF radio equipment to maintenance. Central Dispatch, $40,000 from the dispatcher line item to overtime. Again, Renee's been battling throughout the year having open slots there and having to cover those open slots with remaining staff putting in overtime hours. So we're taking that available salary money and moving it over to overtime. $10,324, also Central Dispatch, from dispatchers to service agreements. We did have some, Renee makes a note, we did go from a service agreement that kind of covers everything to more of an a la carte pay as you use, and we did have some usage this year that we needed to come up with some funding for to cover those expenses. So that is your slate of transfers for this month. And I imagine December will have several as we get to the end of the year. Do I have a motion to approve those transfers?
So moved.
Motion by Carol. Do I have a second? Second by Joe. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. You had on your at your positions here before the meeting the financial and budget status reports. Janet left those for us. She did upload them to our Google Drive accounts today. We did not have those prior to today, so if you want to just acknowledge their receipt, I'd entertain a motion that those reports were received.
Make a motion that they've been received,
Okay.
reviewed.
Okay, I have a motion by Jeff and a second by Mary that we've received the financial reports for November. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Any council reports? We've talked to, Carol just spoke a little bit about she and Mary attending the opioid committee meeting. Any other reports?
Mary and I also attended the Health Department's annual event in
Oh, yeah.
conjunction with the Healthy Communities annual event, and it was well attended, and it was great to see the impact that's happening in the health area of health in our community. So it was great that night. I don't know
It was,
if you have
yes.
something else you want to add to that.
Well, it was just interesting to see how closely together the health department and Healthy Communities work together, and what a difference that's making in our community.
Thank you for attending that. Appreciate that
It was good.
representation of the council.
It's good. And then tomorrow,
Make it to the,
tomorrow I'm going to be attending the advisory council for the CMHC in Kokomo. I'm going to that council meeting tomorrow, and so I'm hoping to get more information about the timeline of the change to Jane Pauley.
Okay,
So
great.
that'll be tomorrow.
Mike's not here today, but I believe he was able to attend the LEPC, the tabletop exercise, and so we did have council representation at that, which I was really grateful that he was able to go.
I was at that one as well,
Were you?
and it was very
Interesting, isn't it?
Yes, it was.
They're really interesting
Yes.
to do. Yeah. I appreciate that we get the opportunity to participate in those.
Mary and I and Todd also attended the merit board hearing that was held for Deputy Melissa Trump, and The only thing I have to say about that is it's very embarrassing for our county.
Okay,
Very embarrassing.
noted.
Noted.
Any other reports?
No, sir.
Okay, Commissioner report. We have Commissioner Weaver with us today.
I have none, Alan.
Okay.
Everything's good.
Okay, thank you. Department head reports. Any department heads need time with the council? Rick?
Uh-oh.
Just wanted everybody to know that County Highway received another community crossings grant money, $344,000 for 3 roads that we wanted, 3 other additional roads we wanted to do. We'll work on that and get that going this spring.
All right, congratulations.
Very good. Thank you.
Good news. Any other department heads? Well, I told you it'd be a short meeting, and 30 minutes is about as quick as we've ever done it, so. If no one else has any business to come before the council, going once, going twice, call the meeting adjourned.
Very good.
All right. I've got a couple things to sign, folks.